Alrighty, well, welcome to Romera Records virtual cast. Today we have on Flint Jamison. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. So, yeah, just got you from Podmatch and pretty much just was interested in what you do, and I wanted you to have a chance to tell everybody about that and how you started and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I'll kick it off. My history is I was an engineer in aerospace. I worked at Boeing. I did some military stuff, but basically I was designing aircraft for most of my career or managing towards the end of the career. But I wanted to find a path of not working extreme hours and high stress jobs my whole life, especially because now I have a 5 and a 7 year old. So I started going down the path of real estate, and I think I went down the same path that most people do. I went into residential. I bought a duplex. It was a very distressed duplex. Uh, Ended up renovating it, renting it out, holding it for a while. But I realized after just doing that, I learned a ton. But in order for me to get to some point of maybe making just $100,000 off of income using that model, I was going to need to get 50 doors. And for the amount of effort and capital it took for me just to get that duplex, I realized it was going to take me far longer and far much more effort than what my goal was, is to set myself free from that 9 to 5. So I jumped into commercial real estate, and now I team up with other experts and we buy apartment buildings and bring investors alongside with us. So I became an investor, started out there. And then, yeah, the world is fruitful when you get into commercial real estate because you have economies of scale. And by commercial real estate, I mean apartment buildings in particular. And yeah, it's a much more fruitful world over here.
So, how long did it take you to really come to that realization? I mean, it might have been like a back and forth type thing.
The realization to get into real estate or realization to go to the commercial side.
Actually, let's do both. So, from the
Yeah.
realization to get into real estate, and then also the one to get into the commercial.
Yeah. Uh, so I originally went down the road of maybe I can just get smarter at becoming a trader, stock trader. And I started digesting a ton of materials, and it just, I'll be honest, I don't like the stock market that much. And the more and more I learn about alternative investments and what's out there and what the high net worth are doing, I mean, start studying what the wealthy are doing, and they're not. Yes, a portion of their portfolio is in stocks, but majority of their wealth is gained through other things. And part of that is a major staple in real estate. So I said, all right, screw this. The stock market to me is it's highly volatile. Plus, it's driven more by human emotion rather than um, rather than just sound numbers. So my best example is Elon Musk goes and buys Twitter and Tesla stock drops. Overnight, the numbers didn't change with Tesla. They're still producing the same amount of revenue they were the day before. So there's a human factor there that just annoys the crap out of me. And I didn't want to invest in something that was so fickle to human emotion. Commercial real estate's not. So anyway, that's when I was started looking into real estate. I digested podcasts and some educational materials for about a year before I jumped in. And then 2018 is when I bought that duplex. 2020 is when I invested in my first commercial real estate. I did that as a passive investor. I invested in a group doing the effort. And then by 2022, I flipped the coin on that, and I became part of what we call the general partners as part of the team operating these assets.
So,
So it can go quick.
yeah, yeah, and to be able to make those kind of decisions is it's not difficult, but it's also like something that some people just don't have in them. I'll say that. So some people they look too much into what other people are doing, as you said, the rich aren't always just in stocks. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people see that and they're like, oh, this is it. This is how I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm just going to do these
Yeah.
stocks and
Yeah.
Robin Hood's going to take me away. But it's not always like that. So
Yeah.
I think that, the decisions that you made were great decisions because you're evaluating, you're doing numbers, you're doing analysis of trends and what other people are doing, and then you're also evaluating yourself because I think that's the part that some people skip.
Yes.
They see what other people are doing, thinking, "Oh, that's how I'm going to do it," but you're not evaluating your own personal situation.
Yep. Yep. So, God, we could pull on that thread so much, and I think it's probably important we pull on it a little bit. Um, I tell people that what I do isn't right for everyone because everyone has different goals and financial goals. Like, I think what keeps most people out of just going and buying a single family home to rent it out as an investment is it's a job. You're buying yourself a job. I mean, everyone knows what it takes to just buy a house, the amount of effort to get a realtor and find a place, do all the underwriting. Is it going to pay? Am I going to find the right tenants? And then how am I going to manage it if they ruin it? There's a lot of effort there. And yeah, that's why not everyone does it because there's some initial scare and animosity to it. And we even see that as investors on the commercial side because it's quote unquote a alternative asset. And I think that our financial institutions have instilled that in us as a societal norm. Anything outside the stock market is alternative. And when you say alternative, it inhibits this scare. So I think a lot of people don't do it just because of that. But when I look at real estate, I think real estate's been around for millennia. Stock market's been around for century. When did the stock market start? Like early 1900s or something? I should go look that up. But it's been around so much longer. And now that the opportunities with the SEC has allowed us to do is uh, normal people who have $50,000 minimum to invest. You can invest through your self-directed IRAs. You can convert an IRA, use retirement money to invest in real estate into these commercial real estate assets. So it's like in the last, what was it, 2012, the SEC started changing the rules on these private placement investments. And it's opened up the door to not just accredited investors, not just millionaires that can get in, but people who have liquidity that they can invest in, and people who are smart enough to make these decisions on their own. This is all SEC guidelines. I'm kind of just glazing over it, being super vague about it, but yeah, the door has opened recently, so more normal people can start investing more like the wealthy without having to do the work. So you don't have to go buy that single family home.
So something I usually do is I usually wait till like later in the podcast to talk about like future stuff, but this is a topic that I don't really want to glaze over because I think it's very important and I think it's very taboo, I guess, to talk about when it comes to real estate, but all over the place we see signs for sale. And a lot of these houses are for sale for organizations and companies and these people
Yes.
or these organizations are buying up houses by the truckload and they are renting them out to the American public. And a lot of
Yep.
people don't notice. A lot of people don't care. They're like, "Huh, I sold my house. Cool. Sold it for 50 grand more than I thought I was going to." But if you narrow down into it, a lot of these houses are getting bought up by organizations who are forcing everybody to rent and nobody can buy in the certain area or whatever. What
Yep.
do you think? First of all, what do you think about the situation? And then second of all, do you think it's good or bad? Pros and cons to that happening.
Yeah. What's interesting is Warren Buffett has he was interviewed and he said if there was a way for me to buy 1,000 homes and manage them efficiently, I would do it because he knows the great investment. And that I want to say that was the early 2010s ish. And that kind of triggered off some of the big institutional companies to start coming up with plans to buy these homes. Um, and yeah, it absolutely affects the market. When I was in Seattle back before 2010, I think the Chinese were buying up a bunch of single family homes in the Seattle area because the real estate was booming there, and they took advantage of it. But I
Like,
think that at some point the government regulation stepped in and said, all right, this is stop, no more of that. And I think that that's happened in micro environments. The local governments had said, all right, you guys are blowing this up. Interestingly, on the other side of the coin, Zillow started doing that. Zillow was going and buying all sorts of houses. I actually had a friend that was working for Zillow in that division,
mm,
but Zillow got in it and they got sideways, and they ended up having to close down that division completely. And then they had to offload all of those assets.
oh
So yeah, it didn't work for Zillow.
man.
Um, but even then, there's a lot of people who just I got a lot of friends who own, I don't know, 5, 10 houses on their own. They have a property manager managing them. So it's not just the institutions. There's a bunch of just investors who get out there. Uh, yeah, I don't know that there's a great solution, um, other than we need more housing. I think that by far, when your supply demand curve gets way out of balance, that's when you see investors coming in being able to buy things and hold on to them, whereas the normal, you know, younger couple trying to buy a house for their family, they're just outpriced. So the only way to bring down house pricing and rents is by developing more, which is like a little foreshadowing into what I'm also doing too. But yeah, it's a tough subject, and I don't have a right answer for you.
Another thing that I is really important to me being 31, people who are about my age, your parents are definitely aging, mine are in their 60s, and those kind of people, if they're not passing away and they're still living into their 80s or 90s, what have you, people my age and younger usually, I'm gonna say usually, don't really care about the property that their parents and or grandparents own. And I've noticed it around where I live. I'm in Memphis, but I'm on the outskirts in Cordova. So there's some more rural areas, and I see it'll be like a lot of land and then this massive house back there, which I think those are probably people maybe in their 40s or so that own a bigger house and they have a family and whatnot. But
Yep.
if it's
Got it
like,
with a low interest rate.
yeah, but if they're like, if the house looks kind of big, but it looks older, it's like that's probably somebody's grandparents that owns that house or something like that. And but anyways, getting back to my point, I think that people around my age and younger don't really care about the property that their parents or grandparents owned because we move. Like people my age
Yep.
move a lot. People
Yep.
who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, when they were younger and now, they probably aren't moving as much. What
Yep.
do you think about that situation of where all these houses are opening up because the younger people don't really care about the property of their, parents and grandparents and whatnot.
Uh, yeah, I wish I had stats on that, but what I do see, uh, slightly staying on topic, uh, there is the younger generations, the younger millennials and the Gen Zs are actually opting to not even want to own
Mm,
because they do want to be mobile.
yeah.
They do want to have, it's called the lock and leave culture, because you want to travel. Okay, well, if you have an apartment, who cares? Just go travel. You don't have to have someone take care of your house, water your lawn, mow your lawn. It becomes much easier. And then with the remote work, so what? Yeah, take off and go to Puerto Rico and work out of a cafe for 3 months and live life. If you owned a home, you probably wouldn't do that as much. So we are seeing a shift with the older generation. We're starting to see a shift of when the kids have gone and moved on and had families somewhere else. When they retire, a lot of them are now moving closer to family, and they're renting. They don't need to buy and own at that age. They're just going to rent some smaller home to live in, be close to the grandkids. So we're starting to see an interesting shift in dynamics of what's wanted. But yes, absolutely, the middle generation, the 30-year-olds through probably 50 are absolutely wanting a home. They're building their families. And a lot of the people who got in with the low interest rates are now sitting on their homes, not willing to sell, which is causing a supply demand issue as well. Like me, I got a 3.2% interest on my house. I I have no incentive to sell my house.
Same here. Like me and my wife, we moved to this Memphis area in 2019. And when we moved here, we rented in April. And then in August, we bought the house that I'm currently in right now. And I think I bought it at like 3.2 percent interest rate. And then I refinanced to get it down to like 2.7. And this was like
Dang.
right after COVID or something like that, that I did
Yeah.
that. So, or like, 2020, sometime around that. But anyways, I bought it for 200 grand. And as I said, I'm in Cordova. I have like a Kroger, like a baseball throw away from my house. Awesome neighborhood. And I think it's being evaluated at like the Zestimate and other things.
Yeah.
I've been getting offers for like over 300 grand. And I don't want to sell and I don't want to move right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Because if you sold, you'd end up having to pay a high interest rate on some home that's equivalent anyway. So you put yourself back.
exactly. And like you were talking about earlier with older people starting to rent, and it's like, man, like if I sold my house, why would I buy a new house instead of just renting? And
Yep.
it's like a different kind of mindset that you kind of have after you sell a home because it's like,
Yep.
what are you going to do?
So from a monthly cash flow perspective, there's charts out there. You can go Google this. And I actually posted this on LinkedIn. Here, a plug. I do a ton of posting on LinkedIn if you follow me /Flint Jamison. But there's a chart you can find that's the 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 disparity between the cost of owning a home versus renting, and it's in an all-time gap where it is from a monthly cash flow perspective, it is much more cost effective to rent than it is to buy.
Wow. And how true is this for, different areas, whether you're in downtown Los Angeles or rural Nebraska? Like,
Okay. So this is a great point. When it comes to real estate, everything is comes down to the micro area. Whether when we go to invest, that very specific local area has to be good because you can cross the railroad tracks and the numbers completely change, right? But this chart is U.S. average, so I don't have the answer on it, but I think the trend is that any of the bigger cities, even the suburbs of bigger cities, that this is true that it is cheaper to rent than to buy.
I think they should start coming out with studies that are separated based off of the populations and not so much just like a state, right? Because like a state could be highly densely populated in one area and then like empty in the rest of the area. So I used to live in North Dakota. North Dakota has
Mm,
like four big cities, big cities. So like Fargo, I I can't even remember what their population was, but like they had like the most people. And then I lived in Minot, and I think their population was like maybe 60K or less. And
yeah,
then there's like Bismarck, which is the capital, and they're less than Fargo. So states like that, which everybody's in like four cities, and then you have states like California. So the national average is such a crazy number. Like I was watching
yeah,
a YouTube video where they were talking about the national average for how much a home cost, and they said it was like $475,000. I was like, I was like, there's plenty of houses right next to me right now that are like 200 and 300, but national average, and I think these are decent homes is my point. So national average, there it's all over the place. Like there are $1 million homes and fifty
Yeah.
thousand dollar homes.
So, yeah, coming from North Dakota and you living outside of Memphis, it makes sense that you're used to those, what I call lower home prices. Like Texas, I know a lot of people would leave their meager home in California and sell it for 1.5 and then go buy this giant state in in Texas. Right? So I'm used to, yeah, I was living in Seattle working for Boeing. Those prices are just astronomical. My first home, I bought a townhome in 2008 was 370, maybe it was 325.
Oh my!
Yeah, a little townhome.
You said
Um
2008?
in 2000, yeah,
Wow.
2007. Yeah, I don't remember when I bought that, but it was in that time frame. Yeah, and then in Colorado, I'm from Denver, from the suburbs of Denver, and it's very normal for it right now a 2,500 square foot home in the burbs to go for 800.
That's crazy. Yeah. So
Yeah,
my house, as I said, I bought in 2019, and it's about 2,000 square feet, and it's got 3 bedrooms with like a bonus room. The people before me had it as like an office, but I'm using it as a spare bedroom. So technically 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, almost 2,000 square feet in this neighborhood. And I bought it for 200 even.
yeah, that's just, to me that's dirt cheap.
So yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, a guy that I work for Owens Corning as my day job, but a
Yeah,
guy that I work with, he said that he's at the Denver Owens Corning, and he said that I think he bought his house. I don't remember when, but I think he said he bought it for like 400 or something like that, and he said it's now evaluated like seven. I was like,
yep,
dear God, that's
yep.
crazy.
Yeah, I bought my Denver home for 530 back in 2017. Now it's 850.
That's
And
so
it's not worth selling because I'm at 3.2. And if I need to go buy another home and I want to upgrade, I'm going to pay close to a million now for something that's maybe 3,200 square feet.
and something that I think is really so again, being in Memphis, the I think it's notorious now about the crime that's here in Memphis. And that to me, like obviously the criminals don't care about the economy, right? But
No.
but I just don't think the people here are truly grasping the concept of like so FedEx is here. It's like literally Memphis International Airport, and then FedEx is like on the same land because
Yep.
they have so much their hub, like the family that started FedEx is here. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so like the hub for FedEx is right here in Memphis, and um there's so much just traffic. And then Nike has a plant here in Memphis. All these companies, AutoZone's headquarters is here, so all these companies are like manufacturing out of Memphis. And as I said, I work for Owens Corning, so all the shingles in the area are coming from here. But like I don't think they're truly understanding what happens with businesses, because businesses can drive up the prices of homes and just how much or how many homes will be in the area because they know people are moving there. So construction companies are going to have to get in materials to build and all this kind of stuff. Have you been able to analyze the corporations or even just whatever companies are moving into certain spots? We saw Tesla. Elon got sick of
Absolutely.
California, so he moved to Texas. All these companies are kind of shifting around. I'm actually from Alabama, and Jeff Bezos, he's got what's it called, blue
Blue Origin.
yeah, Blue Origin. They just moved to Huntsville, and Huntsville is like one of the top tech cities.
Yeah, they've got all of the, I mean, all of the big guys, Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop, everybody's in Huntsville. It's, it's lower labor costs, lower cost of living, but it is very quickly becoming, it's probably not going to be that way for a while. It's kind of like Austin, Texas. Austin is not a low cost place to live, but Texas is a low cost place to live. And Huntsville is just going to, is going to be the new Austin of, of Alabama because I mean, it's super nice. There's so much money there that's coming in and revitalizing, but then you'll start seeing the house prices going up. You got a lot of people who can pay for nice houses. So Huntsville is a great place to invest in. And to your question, every time we go and buy an apartment building and bring investors along with us, we do some hefty market research, and it gets down to the micro level. How far away is the grocery store? How many people within this given area are would be a potential tenant base? Like, are we going to cater to the hospital that's a mile away? What kind of rents and pay? What's their medium income? So we have all sort of, and it's easier these days with the amount of data that's out there. We pay for these big databases from Crexy or RealPage, and we just get data dumped from all of the information, and we can analyze and say, yeah, this looks like a sweet deal. So yeah, to your point, we always look into it. And from the corporation standpoint, right now, more foreshadowing, I guess, we're doing some development to build homes in Phoenix, because right now Phoenix is a massive hotbed of new corporations coming into town. Like billions and billions of dollars. Intel's bringing, I'm going off the top of my head here, so the numbers are going to be off, but Intel's somewhere around $5 billion. Intel's building a plant in Phoenix. $5 billion. You know how many people they're going to need to staff that plant? There's
All
not enough houses in Phoenix. There's another one that's bringing in almost 3 times as much. A Taiwan chip company is coming in and just building a just gigantic plant. And then not to mention all of the EV upstarts and Teslas, and they're just trying to build. Phoenix is becoming a technology hub. So it is smart of us investors who have the capability to go and develop more homes, because we need more homes as a supply demand curve, and provide nice new homes for communities that are getting this influx of corporations moving in.
So what does all of that look like? Do you have like this Excel spreadsheet that you're just making and creating a hierarchy and color coding? Like, what is the actual like process of, because I even know like restaurants do the same thing, right? Like Chick-fil-A is not going to come to an area, like they're not gonna
Yeah,
come to the hood. They're going to go to a place where like
yeah,
median income is this and the church is right next door. Like
yeah.
they
So
evaluate.
I mean, to be honest, these databases we pay for generate these really sweet reports, and they can give you heat maps if you choose a heat map, like a crime heat map. You can get that off of I think Zillow and Redfin. You can see those heat maps. But yeah, some of it's spreadsheet. Like, give me the top 10 companies that are within a 5-mile radius of this given location. Boom. You're like, oh, Intel, and it has it has 10,000 employees or whatever it may be. You've got a hospital that has 2,500 employees a half mile away. So we get all of that information.
That's really interesting. I do think that some of that stuff is I don't think it's like where it should be as far as technology wise, just because of that's such a niche market, and it's impressive what we're able to do already with data analysis
Oh
of
yeah.
information as far as like stuff that's even free. You know, as you say, just go on Zillow, go on Redfin, just look this up, and
Yep.
I do think that once we get that better, that's going to make people who are in your position, it's going to make your job a lot easier to
Oh yeah.
just, you know, look through stuff and sift through all the mud and try to find all the diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, even a lot of these cities, like the city of Fargo, you can go to their website and you'll probably see an economic development, and they'll have articles or just data that they're providing for free, because they want people to know what's the median income of Fargo. You can easily go Google that and pull up a number really quick. Where with these data tools that we pay more money for, we can get down to, this is my address, tell me the median income within a half mile of here. Tell me all, and then how many other competitors are in the area. So yeah, it really helps us in making a great decision, because it's all about the purchase. It's whether or not you're going to make money if you make a wise purchase.
What is the discussion like between, you said you're working with partners. Like what's the discussion like when it comes to good decision, bad decision? Is it, everybody's just looking at numbers, you're just matching
No.
what
So so if you look at if when we go buy an apartment building, you got to think about it as we're buying a business, because commercial real estate is legitimately a business. It's a revenue generating machine. Whether you're buying retail stores, self storage, commercial office, or apartment buildings, it generates revenue, so you have to underwrite it. And we have these complex spread. They're really just spreadsheet models. They're complex. You got to put all of your inputs in there. What's your tax rate going to be? How much are you going to pay in taxes? And you got to call the local county tax assessor and get those numbers. So we get down to the nitty gritty detail before we even choose to buy. And we have metrics and targets we have to hit. And some of them is assumptions, like what's the rent growth going to be over the next 5 years? Typically, we assume 3%, when it could be higher or lower. But you have to start somewhere, and that's where the conversations come in. We get quotes, we get third-party input on everything we can, and then when it comes to the projections, what do we think we can do as a business operator to achieve these certain targets, and are they conservative enough to cover us in the down years?
do you seem like you get much support when you have to reach out to other companies and other like entities
Yeah,
that you said, like the tax assessor?
yeah, I mean, sometimes a tax assessor can be annoying, but in large part, a lot of these people, you got to consider them business partners. Whether they act like a business partner is different. If we go get lending, the structure of this is we go get a loan for these apartments, but similar to buying a house, you have to get some sort of down payment. So just think about it. You buy a $20 million apartment building, and you need to put 20-30% down. It's quite a lot of money. That's why we bring in investors. But we work with the banks, and the banks want to work with us. They want to lend. They love apartment buildings because it generates revenue rather than your single family home, where they're like, okay, one person, there's one revenue stream, this could go sideways, versus an apartment building. So you have 100 units, you normally have a constant stream of income that's going to be able to pay. So banks want to lend, and they want to talk to you. Similarly, insurance companies, yeah, they're going to make money off of you, so they want to talk to you. Property management company, we don't do the property management. We aren't signing leases and advertising ourselves. We manage the asset from the top level, but property management this is a big job for them, so they want it. I mean, yeah, they want to work with you, so they give you the numbers of the area. They give you the competitive analysis of what rents are doing in the area. So there's a lot of work and a lot of data that goes in, but for the most part, we get a lot of people that want to help.
So I don't know if you saw this on YouTube or the news or whatever, but there was this couple who had went on vacation, and they basically picked some spot that was, I think it was in Mexico, but the whole place was empty. It took them a while to know. They just noticed they didn't see other people. It was just all the workers. And then over time, they were like, this is really strange. And they got really freaked out about it. But anyways, it made the news and whatnot. And it was because that was a brand new resort that just opened, and nobody had booked it except for them. So they were literally there for like a weekend of just by themselves. They had the whole resort to themselves.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. How, like, if you if you're opening a resort, even let's I don't know if you're in the resort business, but let's just say apartment complex, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you go to start, telling people about this apartment complex. Like, how do you get the word out to people that it's available? Like, how
You
hard?
normally start pre-leasing as you're building. So
Okay.
you see these new developments going up. You're like, yep, there it is. It's kind of like the roofing's getting put on, the sides are getting put on. You will see these pre-leasing apartments, and you'll see like a little CG graphic of what it's going to look like when it's done. So a lot of times we try to pre-lease. Beyond that, so to give you the actual how this business works, a lot of developers, when they develop, they don't hold. Their main job and their expertise is to build it and sell it and move on. In order to sell a commercial asset, you have to show revenue. So for a short time, until they can get that asset, what we call stabilized, they get enough people in it, they get their occupancy up to 90%, and they prove what the revenue can be. That's when you can valuate the business, because you can't valuate it's harder to valuate a business that's not making money, right? You're like, why would I want to buy it? It's not even making money.
Yeah.
So what they do is they go in with comps. Hey, first and last month's free. Have a free garage. No pet fees for 3 months, right? That's just the comps. They just provide incentives galore to get as many people packed in there as quickly as possible. Now, what we do as apartment buyers, we have bought brand new, shiny apartment buildings off of these developers because we get it at a discount. Because when they put all these comps in place and amenities for free, they are essentially lowering the revenue that the apartment is actually making versus what it could potentially make. And that's where we see the value, because we can get in there. And so to back up a little bit, the value of a property is based on how much revenue it makes, net operating income. So it directly correlates. So we can get in there and be like, all right, all the comps are gone, and we bring market rents up to market rent. And all of a sudden we increase the value of the property within the year.
When you are deciding on the value of a place, what's a factor that can stop you from, obviously, like the people's income, right? Like the area.
Yeah.
That's a huge factor of stopping you at, all right, this place is going to be 3,000 a month. You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of pick the number based off of what you can value it at. Like, what are some
Yeah.
factors that you're like, all right, we've got all these new appliances, under what do they call it? Like underground garage, like all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do
Yeah,
you,
all the mini-me's.
yeah.
You really go by comps, and you have to go with what the market is. So if we're buying a brand new apartment complex from a developer, well, what other apartment complexes are relatively new within the last 2 years? What are they valuating things at, and what amenities are they charging? We go based off of who's around us. So those are the comps we use, but and we can plug those into our valuation calculator, essentially the spreadsheet, to give us well, if we get rid of all of the freebies that the developer has been doing, this is the difference in value we'll get, even though we're going to buy it at a lower price, because the developer has essentially done what they could just to get it off of their books as quickly as possible. I mean, they're still making good money, even selling it at a discount.
So how does that transact? 'Cause I never really thought about that. Like there's developers and then there's people who are actually owning the thing, the
Yeah.
property. So how does that transaction go about? Is this like a lengthy, kind of like y'all are
Yeah.
paying a mortgage, like y'all are having to pay them off, or is this like cash up front?
This is, I mean, you can correlate it a lot to buying a house, because you still get a bank involved, and we have not real estate agents, but we have what we call commercial brokers, which are essentially real estate agents for commercial properties. We get those in the middle, and then we raise the capital and we go buy it. It typically takes 45 to 60 days to close, where a house, there's normally like a 30-day closing target, because what we do is it's buying a house on crack that's so much bigger that we need more time to make it happen.
Oh, okay. So you're taking the time, and over time you end up like, all right, now let's close this deal.
Well, and part of that is not only lining up lending and insurance agents and brokers, getting all the quotes in place, but it's a majority of that is doing the due diligence on the property. So we're going to go buy a used property that was built in, say, 2005. We go get an inspector, or 6, depending on the size of the property. When you buy a house, you get an inspector, they walk through it, they detail everything out, what's wrong. We do the same thing. And if you think 100 unit, 200 unit, 600 unit portfolio, how many people are involved in going through every single apartment? And they're habitated. There's people living there, but you got to go in and document everything that needs to be fixed, everything that's wrong, because then we put that in our underwriting. Otherwise, we're going in blind and we don't know what's wrong. I mean, every once in a while we do get surprised, but uh, we try to do our best to know exactly what we're going into, including horoscoping all the stuff underground, like the sewage, the water lines, making sure there's not lead or corroding pipes that need to be replaced because those costs can add up a lot. And some of that we'd be like, nope, I'm out. Or we'd say, hey, owner, we found this major issue. It's going to cost $15,000. We're going to, negotiate that into the sales price.
What are some of your favorite properties that you're actually interested, like things you're like, oh man, I can't, I'm happy this is on the market. Let's go get that.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, some of them you get into certain deals where in commercial real estate you can assume a loan. So right now in a high interest rate environment, it's much harder to do find a property that underwrites and get a loan that's going to get you the targeted returns that we try to shoot for. So in creative situations, you can do seller financing. Others, you can find a assumable loan where the current property owner has a loan at 3%, and you can assume that as yours. You might now have to get a little bit of a gap loan because theirs might be a 40% loan to value, and you need to get 70%. So you can get this blended uh, two loan stack and have maybe a blended interest rate of 4.5%. So we do get pretty creative. And I think some of those offer a really great opportunity for investors. Really, it's just finding unique ways to bring value to us and the investors.
Now,
And then on top of that, let me add to that. The majority of what we do is we don't buy as many brand new properties. That's like buying the stable assets are great for hey, I just bought a stable asset, but they don't provide the big returns. So we mix those with assets where we call Class B. These are like built in late 90s, mid 2000s. And those need a value add. They haven't been updated since. The roofing needs done. It needs new paint job, right? This is fix and flip on apartments. That's just to put a baseline and the business plan of what we normally do. We fix and flip apartments, but we do it over 5 years. And so there, just like buying a fix and flip house, you buy it cheap, you upgrade it, you sell it for more. That's what we look for. We look for these properties, and you'd be amazed how quickly we can turn around these properties in 2 years and just increase the value and turn around and sell it hopefully within 3 to 5.
so now that you have basically been doing this for a while and you're kind of getting the hang of it, at least you sound like you you definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What are some things that you might regret that you've done, or some things you're like, man, I'm really glad I did that?
Um, I think it's just like life in general. The more you do it, the more you learn. And there's always little gotchas here and there, no matter what. I'd say no matter what in life, you think about it, you look back on your life and you get into something, you're like, oh gosh, I didn't know that. That kind of bit me in the butt. There's always these little setbacks and failures along the way, but you have to accept those failures and get through them to get success. Because if you see a failure and you're just like, okay, I'm out. I had one tenant that trashed something and I'm going to sell it. I'm never going to do real estate again because it's horrible. I hear that all the time. It's just horrible because you get horrible tenants. Well, not everyone's horrible. And yes, when you're in real estate, there's always a story. Just get through it and keep going, because in the end, you're going to make a lot of money. So I guess I don't regret anything. I have lost money. I have learned a lot, but I have never lost investor money. I've lost my own money, but I've never lost investor money. And yeah, I'm just getting smarter by the day. So I guess things are on the up and up.
Yeah, I think there's like this little thing that was going around on the internet, and it was like telling a story. And I think it was talking about like, um if you lost or somebody stole like $1 from you, would you just give them the rest? And it's like, no, like just because you had like one bad thing happen to you doesn't mean, you have to
Yeah.
get rid of everything and just throw everything
Yeah.
out. So yeah, for sure. If you have a bad tenant, that doesn't mean, the whole business is crap and you shouldn't get into real estate.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen. And,
You got to expect things are going to happen. I actually thought about writing a book about just collecting all of my friends' stories, including my own, and talks. It's kind of like the good, the bad, the ugly about real estate, and then there's a silver lining. Man, I've got stories, and my friends have got worse stories. It's crazy, but we're all still doing it because we're all making more money now because we didn't give up.
that is something I definitely think you should do, because I think something that connects with people the most is when they can relate to what you're doing. Even if I'm not in real estate, which I'm not, I would like to read stuff like that just to know, like, what's the worst that can happen, because that's really what stops people from doing anything in life. Like,
Yeah,
you want to jump out of a plane and go like skydiving or something. What's going to stop you from doing it is what's the worst that could happen. Your
yeah,
parachute doesn't work. All right, what are the chances of that happening? All right, so
yeah.
you kind of
And
have to.
there's a backup parachute, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, if somebody could read your book on that information, they'll be like, oh, well, that's not that bad. Or, oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
could just do that just to help me out. Or, oh, yeah, I could just, all those things of reassuring them about, hey, stuff is going to go bad, but this is how you get out of it. That would be a phenomenal book.
yeah. It's interesting. Warren Buffett has a famous saying of rule number one, never lose your money. Rule number two, listen to rule number one, or something like that. And I think that puts the wrong mindset in people. As much as Warren Buffett was great, he lost money too. He wasn't perfect his whole life. And another thing I like to set, Warren is he I would say he's smart investor. He's a conservative investor, but the reason he's successful is because he's had time on his side. And I wouldn't call him a savant at investing. He didn't just magically pick everything that was a winner. He started when he was 10 years old. Could you imagine if you had a good chunk of money and started when you were 10 and you were active because you were geeked about it? That was your, like, rather than playing Nintendo, he was off just checking out the stock market, learning what the next Snickers to invest in. Um, yeah, and he made most of his wealth after his 60s. So he started when he was 10, and a majority of his wealth he has today came after his 60s. So compounding returns. Um, it's just take everything that Warren Buffett says. It's very smart, but don't think it can correlate to your life, because the way he started was much different than the rest of us. Like, I didn't start the stock market until I was 20, and I half-assed it, and then I half-assed it for 2 decades. So I think you got to take things with a grain of salt, and like I said, start looking into the wealthy and what they do. Also, providing some value here, there's a book called The Psychology of Money.
Hmm.
It's phenomenal. It will reset your mind and the way we think about things and how much emphasis we put into these quote unquote experts. And in the end, it doesn't matter. Like, no one has a crystal ball. So it's such a great book about resetting your mindset and how you should invest or think about how you're investing.
So something that about that, thinking about money differently. I remember when I first got the job that I have now, and I make basically like a little over 100 grand a year doing what I do. And when I first started thinking about like what to do with my money, I was like, well, they offer all these like benefits of doing employee stock purchase plan, and then also putting a good bit into your 401k and all these things. And I noticed that some people don't do that. And I was like, why aren't they doing this? And it's so crazy thinking about how some people think about money. And I used to be a clothes person, like materialistic with that, but like now, like I wear, do you know what zero shoes are, or barefoot
Yeah,
shoes?
yeah, I got some zero shoes.
Oh man. So I literally have, like, my everyday shoes I have one pair of like barefoot boots and one pair of zero shoes. And that's like what I wear every single day. And then I have like one pair of black, one pair of brown dress shoes, and some boots that I wear at work. But like that's it. I have not that many clothes because I'm just like I don't need all this stuff because
Yeah.
it's not making me money.
Yeah.
And I look at other people who are like, oh, I need to go get this, I need to go get that. And I'm just like, the way that you're spending your money is completely different from the things that you say you want. Like I have a friend who I know makes a good bit of money, but he's always spending his money on like these random things. And
Competing with the Joneses.
yeah,
Yep.
and then he'll talk about how he needs oh man, I need a new phone or I need a new laptop. I'm just like, you could have bought that by now. By all the other stuff you're spending your money on. So anyways, my point to all this,
Yeah.
the fact that I think that if people really evaluated their expenditures, they would be able to afford, either the house that they love or
Yep.
going into what you're doing and investing in real estate. I don't think people um, have been able to handle money, especially people my age who are getting
Correct.
software engineering, AI stuff, and they're getting all this money at a young age because these companies need that stuff, but yet they don't really know how to manage it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I think the US, we do a really poor job of educating ourselves in financial education. Like maybe it's just not the US, maybe it's around the world. Um, and I didn't start really learning about financial education until I started dipping my toe into real estate. And then all of a sudden I opened up this whole new door and a whole new world of, wow, there's so much out there. There is so much out there beyond the stock market that now you just start educating yourself more and more, like the psychology of money, and you just reframe your mind on it. There's so many books out there that get you into this new mindset where I think that everybody can accelerate themselves financially from a wealth perspective so much more. And it is well beyond your 401k. I think the 401k, I'm going to plug my opinion on this. It took me a while to get here when I first started hearing about it. Your 401k is really great. I would consider it like the lazy man's tool to invest if you're not working hard. I was there for 20 years. If you're not going to work hard at really placing your money somewhere, the downside that I think now, looking back on it, I have all this money in my 401k that's locked up. And I'm in the mindset where I want to be called work optional. I don't want to say I want to be retired early because I'm not really going to retire, but I want to be work optional. I want to make decisions on my own, and I want it to be when I'm 45. I'm 43 now, and I'm well on my path. My 401k money doesn't help me there. My 401k money is locked up to a government defined date of 59 and a half where I can withdraw it without penalty. And then when I do withdraw it, I get taxed the maximum amount that's the earned income tax that we pay for like our day jobs. Our W-2 is an earned income tax. It's one of the highest tax rates that we have. This is why Warren Buffett pays less tax than his secretary, because Warren doesn't have an earned income tax. He gets capital gains tax, which is typically taxed much lower. So his tax rate's lower. So anyway, if you're investing in your 401k and you're maximizing it, you're just basically hiding your money from yourself and hoping that your nest egg is going to be big enough when it comes to that time to retire. And then you're going to pay whatever tax rate is in the future. And you're hoping that it's invested in these really basic bland funds in the stock market. I mean, it's like running with tunnel vision. And that's your 401k. To me, I was like, what am I doing? Yeah, I get a match, but then I kept maximizing it. Like I kept throwing, I don't know what it was, 16,500 a month, a year, just well beyond. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. When I should have, no, I should have been paying the earned income tax then, and I was making less when the tax rate's likely less than it's going to be 20 years from now, and done something with that money so it's working for me now versus for me in the future. Because if I can build multiple streams of income now, I can become work optional or retire sooner than having to wait until my retirement accounts, IRAs and 401ks, become available.
Mm.
So you kind of have to start switching your mindset. Another wealthy lesson learned: the wealthy on average have 7 streams of income. if you had 7 streams of income, would you care how large your nest egg is? I mean, if your 7 streams of income could pay for your life and then whatever travel and stuff you wanted to do and live a comfortable life off of 7 active streams of income, whether that be real estate or private equity, uh, I mean, who cares about your nest egg? And then your 401k at that point becomes negligible. So I've switched my mindset into I'm going for my nest egg, or I'm going for more streams of income, because then I don't have to care about the size of my nest egg lasting until the end of the time. Because you never know. Look how many people now not only weren't set up right, their nest egg isn't large enough and they have to work till they're 65, or they don't know how long it's going to last based on how everything's costing, inflation, rate of return in the market. There's just way too many assumptions to live by a nest egg, and you don't know what Social Security is going to do in 20 years from now. There's too many unknowns. I'm an engineer. This stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah, and there at some point the thing that you were saying basically is don't become a slave to the money that you have accrued over time in this 401k, because then it's like, oh, this is my cap. This is my limit of all the money that I'm going to have available. So
Yeah.
generate more wealth. And they say you don't get wealthy by saving. You get wealthy by making money. So
Yeah.
that's everything you were saying is 100%
And
true.
then if you can get your money to work for you, that's really when you've reached a new level. So it's interesting. There's this layer of I didn't come up with this. And by the way, I don't provide financial advice. I tell you what I do, because I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not qualified to give advice per the SEC. You have like Susie Orman, you have Dave. Why did I just space his last name? The big financial uh,
Ramsey.
Ramsey. Thank you. Susie Orman, you have Dave Ramsey. So someone is like, if you're poor, you go to Susie Orman to get out of poor. You go to Dave Ramsey to get out of debt.
Hmm.
And then where do you do after that? Then you go to Robert Kiyosaki. So Dave Ramsey's all about getting out of debt and living a no debt life, which is cool. That's like the lowest risk possible, but it doesn't help you grow your wealth. He doesn't teach how to grow your wealth. He just teaches you how to get out of debt.
Hmm.
Now, when you get into the wealthy debt, when you're using debt to your advantage, that's a different game than the Dave Ramsey get out of debt plan. So good debt is the debt where you're buying assets like real estate that will give you active income and pay the debt while you're at it. And eventually, more and more assets that are paying you money is buying you more assets. So you create the snowball that continues to grow, and you're using healthy debt managed appropriately to grow your wealth.
You've been giving great advice this whole time. Let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah.
What are ways that people can contact you? If any kind of info that they want to give, you got to have a book, man. You got to put that.
Yeah, I don't have the book yet. To be honest, I give a boatload of information on LinkedIn, just Flint Jamison. If you want to figure out what I do in the real estate side, you can go to investwithflint.com. It'll take you to my business, Vestis Capital.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on and spilling your brain about all the information that you have when it comes to commercial and residential real estate, and being able to capitalize on the money you make. So it's been a great talking to you for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone tuning in, and we'll see you next time.